I'm a preacher of the good word, collector of knives, with an eye for the metal and a faith that survives. Where others see rust, I see honor and life. Each blade tells the story, sharper than strife.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here with Billy Salyers of Yellow Rose Forge. He is actually a Forged in Fire champion. He's local here in the county where I live, and we thought we'd get with him today and do a little bit of interview and maybe show off some of his knives and just ask him a few questions on how he got started and different things of that nature. So we'll get into it. Billy, why don't you introduce yourself?
I don't know that I can say much more than what you just said. Yeah, I'm Billy Salyers. I'm one of the owners here at Yellow Rose Forge. My son, Joseph Salyers, is also a Fortune Fire champion. He owns the shop with me as well. And this is where we make knives for a living. We own and operate the Yellow Rose Forge, but we also run a nonprofit called Redeemed Steel here out of this building as well.
And we're having to switch back and forth the microphone. Somebody left their other one at home somewhere. But Billy, what got you started in blacksmithing or bladesmithing and all that?
Well, gosh, I'll try to keep that story kind of short. So I was a school teacher at the time, and I wanted to be really intentional about being at home with my kids. I grew up in a single parent household. My dad wasn't around, my mom was. And I just wanted to be a dad who was present with his kids. And so every year we would do some kind of summer project together. We tried raising chickens one year. We did the little aluminum foundries that were really popular on YouTube a while back. We made an arcade machine, and then one year we tried blacksmithing, and it just kind of snowballed from there. We fell in love with the craft. Next thing you know, we're doing it 20 or 30 hours a week as a hobby. And then after that, it just people started buying stuff, and now it's what we do for a living in a ministry.
Tell us a little bit about the ministry.
So the ministry is really the only reason the business exists. So Redeemed Steel is a nonprofit. It actually started from my time on Forged in Fire. 3 out of the 4 guys there were Christian blacksmiths. We didn't realize it at the time, but we felt like God put us together for something a little more important than a TV show. And so we created a network of people who would use blacksmithing and bladesmithing as a way to do good work throughout the world and share the gospel. So we build houses for the homeless, provide food for the hungry. We drilled a well for a village of 500 people in Guatemala last year. We're working with a group of blacksmiths and bladesmiths in Costa Rica right now to kind of grow this craft there as well. But we also do a lot of work at home in the States through men's groups, things like that. And all of the work that we do, I think over the course of the years, we've built maybe I'm going to say close to 20 homes for homeless families, has come through donations or through blacksmiths and bladesmiths like myself who use at least a portion or in some cases all of their income to drive that ministry. Maybe the biggest thing that we're doing, and we're really close to being able to finish it, is we're actually starting a trade school in Guatemala right now that's going to help young men and young women who are basically aging out of orphanages to learn a trade to take care of themselves and their future families so that they don't end up in the sex trade or drug industries.
And you guys that watch the channel, we're all about putting him first and growing the kingdom for sure. And that's why I wanted to get with Billy and let him share this ministry with you guys and share what the work he's doing through steel. And it's amazing the avenues that God opens up for us that we can use our talents that He's given us to give back and to grow the kingdom. And it's just an amazing thing. I've followed Billy for since the start, and actually he and I don't know if he remembers or not. We had a college class together back in the day, the computer class, the intro to Microsoft.
We sure did.
And so that's how I first met Billy, even before all of this, and I've followed him since the beginning, and it's just an awesome to watch the Lord bless this and watch it grow and watch how He uses Billy and JoJo and everyone else to grow this ministry, and it's just an amazing thing. So before we get into the knives, tell us about your time on Forged in Fire.
Okay. So I don't. He's around here somewhere. Maybe we yank him over here at some point. I don't know if it's little known. I don't know. I don't think we're as popular as people think that we are. But a little known fact is that Joseph and I, my son and I, who run the shop together, are actually the only father and son to have gone on Forged in Fire and both won. So I actually won in season 7. He won in season 9, and I was way more proud of him winning than I was me. That's just being a dad. But Forged in Fire, I've done a couple TV shows. I did the Knife or Death, which was the spinoff of Forged in Fire. That was a lot of fun. But Forged in Fire, at least for our experiences and the other people that I know that have done the show, was exactly what you saw it to be on TV. There was no Hollywood magic or going back and, hey, let's reshoot that or edit that. When the clock starts at 3 hours, you got 3 hours. And that includes about 15 minutes of time that you lose for interviews where they make you stop working and talk while you're on the forge floor. So that you really only get about 2 hours and 45 minutes. But it's a ton of fun. The only big difference I think most people wouldn't recognize is that round 1 and round 2 aren't filmed on the same day. So you make your blade, you put it, you quench it. They put it in a tempering oven overnight so that the blades aren't so crazy brittle that they just all shatter. And so that takes a process overnight in an oven, and we've got some of those here. And so you film round 1 on one day, round 2 on another day. But as far as the time constraints and all that, it's exactly what you see. There's no fudge room there, and the 4 days that you get to work on it really only adds up to about 35 hours because you don't get 4 24-hour days. The judges were amazing, really great guys. To me, they just seem like a bunch of dads who know they've got one of the best jobs in the world and are just having fun with it. And the other competitors, I'm still friends with everybody from my episode. So we were helping each other. None of us wanted to go in and win like we were when we were cutting up the tank on my episode. A couple guys didn't know how to use oxyacetylene torches, and a couple of us did. So those that did, we cut the steel for the other guys, and then they used angle grinders to cut the handrails that we used for their other steel because we had to make sanmai. And so we all just kind of helped each other harvest the materials because nobody wanted to win or send a guy home because he didn't have the chance to make a knife. So we wanted it to come down to who made the best knife in the time. And yeah, it's a friendly competition. There's not a lot of the drama that you see in other stuff on TV. It was an honest day's work for everybody. We had a great time. We went out to dinner in a different restaurant every night the whole time we were there. Just had a blast, and I'm still friends with all those guys and still communicate even with some of the judges on occasion. And yeah, it's a good time, and would do it again in a heartbeat.
I have to say Doug Marcotte is probably my favorite judge, but
Doug's a great guy.
That's awesome, and I'm excited to call you a friend, and JoJo as well. I haven't met him personally yet, but we're just thankful for the opportunity. And let me do that before I forget. Thank you for allowing us to come by and shoot this
honor.
video and all those different things. But let's get into some of the knives that you guys make and show the audience what you make.
Okay. We do a variety of stuff here. 90% of what we do is custom made to order. So people call us, they tell us what they want. We do a design, and then, it may be 6 months, depending on how backed up we are at the time, before we can actually make that. But we only work on one knife at a time when it comes to custom orders. So if you call and you order a knife, and it may take me 2 or 3 days to make it, I'll still block out a week for your knife. And then that way I know that we're giving the attention to detail that we need to. And it also makes time for screw-ups and problems and things like that to happen, where if I need to start over, I can. That doesn't really happen very often, but it also allows for our schedule where we travel with the ministry a lot. So there may be 2 or 3 weeks at a time we're out of the shop. So that keeps our schedule in such a way that we can actually under promise and over deliver. We don't like to miss deadlines, and so we schedule out things so that if you order a knife, we tell you to be 6 months, you'll probably get it in 4 or 5. That's just kind of the way we like to do things. We do a lot of kitchen cutlery, I think, as do most custom knife makers. And this is one of our signature chefs with a slightly new handle design. I really like this handle shape on this one. This is a new one that we're trying out right now. But we worked with Chef Carl Schultz to design this blade, and we've been making this one now for several years. And what we did is we went to him because he's a professional chef, knows what he's doing, ran multiple restaurants. And so we gave him a knife and said, hey, tell us everything that you hate about this knife. And you're our friends, so be honest, not nice. And we actually went through about 5 different designs with that knife, making changes. Hey, thin this out, change this, move this around, until we finally came up with this design. And he said, hey, I can get competition quality cuts out of this. Don't change a thing. And so that's kind of how we come up with that design. It's a time over time, tried and true, tested design that we've really honed down, and everybody that gets this is just their favorite knife in the kitchen, and we use this style of knife in our kitchen. I absolutely love it. If I only had one knife, that would be the one. And so we do a lot of kitchen cutlery, and so that's kind of our best selling kitchen knife. We've got several other designs here. So if I was going to go out in the woods for a week and not have one knife with me, this is what we call our classic hunter. This is just a 4.5-inch drop point hunter, natural linen micarta handle scales, 1095 steel hardened to around 59 Rockwell. It's just a beast of a knife. It's 3/16 of an inch at the spine. You could baton this through firewood. You could use a striker or the fire steel and start a fire with this. You could chop down trees if you needed to. It's just a beast of a knife. And if I was only going to have one with me for survival, this would be it. You could skin an animal, do whatever you needed to.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's just a really, really cool knife. It's a little on the big side for EDC because it's a 4.5-inch blade. So for me, what I personally carry, and this is our best selling knife, is what we call the Green River Hunter. This is a 2.75, if my memory serves correctly, inch cutting edge, which means it's legal to carry openly in pretty much any state that has that 3-inch knife law.
Right.
We use North Carolina locally sourced black walnut for the handle. I have it stabilized up the road. That's the only thing that we don't do in-house here at the shop is stabilize the wood. And that's just because I've got a friend who makes world champion crow calls. He's got all the equipment set up to stabilize it. So why would I do it if he can do it better? So we cut the wood, send it off to him. He stabilizes it, comes back in, and we do the knife, the heat treat, the leather work, the handle, the finish. All that's done in-house. This has been our best-selling knife for years. And to date, we've never had to replace one. We offer a lifetime guarantee. If the knife fails, we'll replace it for free. And we've sold over 1,000 of this knife, and we've never had one come back for replacement. This is what I carry. The one that I carry is the prototype, so it's number 0. I haven't even put my name on it.
Oh, wow.
I've carried it now for 7 years. In 7 years, I've sharpened it 6 times. I sharpen it once a year is kind of my commitment to that knife is I'll sharpen it once a year. I've split firewood with it. I've cut guitar strings with it. I've pried open a car door. We locked our keys in our car on a mission trip in Costa Rica. Cut up a chicken on the sidewalk in Nicaragua. We were building a house for a family in Guatemala, and the door frame was out of square. And I jammed the knife up into the door frame and beat it through the door with a claw hammer. And I've done that a couple times now. The knife's still as straight as it was when I made it. It never chipped, never broke. I've beat the heck out of that knife trying to destroy it and haven't been able to. It's just a great little knife.
Get one of those.
These are cool. These are super cool. We also do some. Before we get to the Damascus ones, we just released. This is our new Eagle One Tomahawk. So we're getting into hawks and axes and stuff as well. So this is kind of a new field for us. We just came out with this one. This is 80 CRV2. So this is a full tang, solid 80 CRV2 Tomahawk. There is some skeletonization inside the handle just for weight and balance. With that same linen micarta and G10, black G10 pins on that. You'd have to run over this thing with a bulldozer to do it any harm at all. It's got a nice pick on the back for breaking stuff up. And then, of course, it's shaving sharp on the front. So that's a new one for us. I really, really like that one. The name of it is actually a subtle nod to a video game that we play. So we'll let people figure that out why we call it Eagle One. We also do a lot of Damascus. And so this is one of our Damascus blades. This is a 960 layer feather pattern Damascus. This is just kind of a little recurve fighter with a harpoon tip. This is one of my personal knives. I've been carrying this one for a while. A Cocobolo handle on that with a nice little mosaic pin there. And then I really like the leather work that goes with this one. It's kind of subtle. But the pattern on the leather is actually a feather pattern inlay there that matches the blade, and the texture up here actually is a wood grain texture that kind of matches the blade. And then one that I just finished I haven't even finished the sheath. I was working on the sheath when you got here this morning. I think this is the right bag. Yeah. So then this one, that's like a I don't even know. It's a 100,000 layer mosaic pattern. You kind of lose count with mosaics. But a recurve fighter buoy with steel hardware, and then a piece of 3,000-year-old Irish bog oak for the handle. And it's I'm sure it's really kind of hard to see with the camera that far away, but I mean that's pretty pattern. And this is the kind of stuff I really like making. This is just super fun for me. Didn't have an order for this one. We're taking it to a knife show next week, and I'm hoping somebody picks it up there. But this one's actually what we call a takedown. So there, you can put a little tool that I made inside of this pommel nut here, pull that apart, and this whole knife disassembles for cleaning and maintenance and everything, and then just tighten it together with that pommel nut right on the back. But these are super, super fun to make. They're beautiful. But what I always tell people is that function comes over form. So despite this being 130 something thousand, I don't know, mosaic pattern Damascus and a 3,000-year-old piece of wood, this knife is still going to be just as tough as every one of these. Right. It's made to work. Mm-hmm. And whoever buys this will likely put it on display somewhere, but they don't have to. They could take this out, put it on their hip, riding a horse out on the range, gutting animals, skinning deer, kill a bear, I don't know, whatever you want to do with it, and it's going to hold up. It's shaving sharp. It's going to do its job. And when we were coaching people, because we've coached several people through Forged in Fire, we always tell them the same thing. Parameters, performance, pretty. So when you're doing something like that, the first and most important thing for the competition is you want to make sure that you're doing what they ask you to do. Right. So if somebody calls me and asks me to make them a Bowie knife, and I give them a hunting knife, a Skinner, I haven't done what the customer asked me to do. I haven't made them a Bowie knife. So I start with, well, let's make a Bowie. But then performance, right? On the show, they're going to put it through all kinds of brutal tests or whatever. You got to make a knife that's going to do the job that it's designed to do. Right. And we make sure that our knives do that. And we try to make sure that they do it as good as they possibly can. A chef's knife's got to cut thin. It's got to cut clean. It's got to cut fast. A crazy thing about a chef's knife is if it's sharp enough and well made, it'll actually improve the flavor of your food. Wow. Because like say you're cutting an onion, everybody knows onions make your eyes water. But if you're slicing that onion with a sharp enough knife, you're not actually crushing the cell walls and the fibers in the onion. So it's not going to release that. More of that's going to go into your food, change the flavor. Crazy as it sounds, but it really is true. And then the last thing is, once you've got the knife that you're trying to make, it's going to perform correctly, then pretty. And everybody loves a pretty knife. So make it as pretty as you can. And you don't have to sacrifice beauty for function. And a lot of times people will pick up our knives as opposed to other knives that they may see, and they go, wow, that's really light. And I think that's important for us. Is as kids we're kind of conditioned, the biggest, heaviest toys are the ones made out of the better material. Right. We know what the cheap crap toys that fall apart and break are made out of. People translate that to knives sometimes. You go to a show and they'll pick up a knife that's kind of heavy and they go, oh, it's got some weight to it, but that's not necessarily a good thing. Right. A really well-made knife should be balanced, right? Mm-hmm. It needs to have the proper weight to do the job that it needs to do, the proper geometry, but then make it as light as you can possibly make it, because let's say it's a sword, right? You're going to be swinging that thing in combat for 5, 6, 10 hours. You're going to get wore out, especially if it's 8 pounds hanging off the end of your arm. You want it to be light and whippy so that you don't really have to move your body while you're swinging it. And so, it's all about balance. It's all about function. It's all about, making it work the way that it's supposed to do. And then once you've got all that nailed down, make it as pretty as you can. That's kind of how we do it.
This is a new one too, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're
totally
fine.
Forgot.
You're good.
This is a new design. We call it the Reef Shark. I love the sheath on this one. Before I even take it out, I really love the sheath about this one because we built in these little tabs into the leather. So you can actually take this whole sheath out of the frog portion here and reverse this. So this is a left hand or right hand carry, but it's also forward and reverse carry. So a lot of people would carry this knife this way and draw it traditionally. I actually like to carry it with the handle facing this way. So then that way I can literally just grab the knife and draw it in a fighting grip. And so it's almost like drawing a gun out of a holster at that point. And here I like to hold this knife this way. It's super, super comfortable if I hold it this way.
Right.
But this is a fighter, so it's really meant to hold this way. And I just love the fact that we can make a sheath that you can hold a knife 4 different ways. But yeah, nice harpoon tip, recurve here. It's really subtle. Nice big belly on that. Then a super comfy grip. And then I love the blue. And then this is a stabilized maple burl on that. For me, it kind of reminds me of ocean waves crashing over the shore.
Yeah, it's
And
beautiful.
because it's such an aggressive shape, it's where we get the name reef shark. Because to me, it reminds me of a coral reef at the beach. And then, of course, the aggressive nature of a shark. So, yeah, that's a new design for us. That's kind of our first dedicated fighting knife, and so that one's been really popular, especially in that blue color since we came out with that one recently.
Well, Billy, thank you for showing us all these. Real quick, is there anything else you would like to say to somebody who may want to get into blacksmithing or bladesmithing, or how to kind of give them some pointers on how to start?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The best way to get started in this craft is not to go spend a bunch of money. Find a local blacksmith or bladesmith who teaches classes and go hang out with them. 30 years ago, maybe 40 at this point, I'm getting old, blacksmithing in the United States was dead. And it was people like Bill Moran and the founders of the American Bladesmith Society that really revived this craft, especially for handmade knives in the United States. And so to my knowledge, I've never met a blacksmith who wasn't willing to share what they knew. I know they're out there, but I haven't had the unfortunate opportunity to meet that guy yet. And if you look on the walls back here in our shop, you see signatures everywhere. In the old shop, you could hardly see the wall anymore. Those are all people that have come to the shop and have taken a class and made their first knife here. So there are lots of people out there, whether you take it with me or somebody else. Go to the Redeemed Steel Network Facebook page. It's a Facebook group. We've got 600 or 700 people in that group all over the U.S., all over the world, and connect with one of them who's close to you. It would be nothing but a blessing to them for you to go to their shop, learn how to make a knife from them. And the benefit of that is you get to try it out under supervision of somebody who knows what they're doing and how to do it safely. So there's no chance of you burning your own house down when you're not even at your house. There's a far greater chance of you coming out with a knife that's actually usable. Every single signature here, and we've done this with probably hundreds or thousands of people at this point, every single one of them has left with a finished knife. Some of them have tried really hard not to, but we've always made sure that every single person did. So yeah, find somebody who teaches classes. That also lets you try out the equipment before you spend money on it, and you can figure out what it is that you like. I've used, grinders, for example. I've used almost every single major grinder brand, including some homemade ones and some of the cheaper ones, and almost every single one of the really, really expensive ones. And I've had the opportunity to go to different shops and try out all of those before I settled on Ameribraid being the one that I just really, really love. But if I only had to go out and buy one, then I'm locked into that grinder whether I buy it and realize I don't like it or not. So by trying it before you buy it, taking a class, it's just a great way to do it. And you may hate the craft. You go in, you take a class, you go, this is just not for me. Then you're not out any of the money except for the class, and you still have a knife. So that's what I would do. A lot of people ask me, how do you get into this as a business? And I tell them the same thing. The easiest way to become a millionaire as a knife maker is to start as a multimillionaire. It's not something that even though I do this for a living now, I would not go into knife making looking to make money. It's just a really, really competitive industry. It's really difficult to do. And you should do it for the love of it, not because you're trying to get something else out of it. Just do it for the fun of it. That's how we started, and we are blessed to do it for a living. But at the end of the day, it's still my hobby. When I take a day off of work, I'm usually still here in the shop working on something else.
How it goes. Well, Billy, again, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy and got things going on, but I appreciate you taking the time to do this video with us and get. Obviously, you don't need any help getting your work out there, but we'll hopefully this will help you stay a little bit more busy. And
I appreciate it.
We thank you again for showing off all your beautiful work, and thank you for taking the time to show us around and talk about knives and the bladesmithing craft with us.
Absolutely. And if someone's interested in ordering something, they can go to yellowroseforge.com. If they're interested in the ministry side of things, then they can go to Redeemed Steel. That's the website there. So redeemedsteel.com. You can sign up for newsletters and things like that as well, and just kind of learn what we're doing all over the world. Because at the end of the day, for me, I love the knives, but it's not about the knives.
Right.
We're building the kingdom here, and that's what we're trying to do through the knives. But thank you for having us.
Yes, sir. Thank you again, and I'll link all his websites and different things in the description. And as always, let's go get another one saved. See you guys.